Undanfarið hafa málefni flóttamanna verið mörgum hugleikin og daglega berast okkur fréttir af hörmungum sem eiga sér stað víða heiminn. Síðar í þessu mánuði von á 55 sýrlenskum flóttamönnum til landsins og 23 þeirra munu setja stað á Akureyri. Í síðustu viku var Dr. Nicole Dubus, sérfræðingur í móttöku flóttamanna, stödd á Akureyri þar sem hún heimsótti ýmsar stofnanir og deildir bæjarins og hitti það fólk sem helst mun koma að móttöku flóttafólksins sem hingað kemur. En hvað getur samfélagið hér gert til þess að taka sem best á móti þessu fólki?
Probably the biggest thing is just to be yourself, which is welcoming and kind and authentic yourself. They're going to be coming at a very hard time for them, just one, because they're through so much trauma. It's going to be years of trauma, right? So it's not just one event that they got to get over. They're going through a lot of losses, and those losses will be felt for many, many years. But they're also coming at a time in which, climate-wise, it's going to be very different than what they're used to. And everything about this place is going to be different. The language, the customs, the daylight, the climate. So all that's going to be different, which isn't bad. It just means you might see them at their most stressed, and they may not be showing you the appreciation they might really be feeling, and that might be true for years. It really depends on what they have lost and the trauma they've gone through, but just one-to-one human connection makes all the difference.
And what is it that the people need, apart from obvious things like housing and clothing?
To feel safe. That's probably their number one priority, is they need to feel safe. I honestly don't know their individual experiences, so each one will have a different experience about how safe they feel in a new place and how safe they feel in a Christian country. Some will feel very safe and very accepting and accepted, and others might feel a little more shy to expose themselves.
Mm-hmm. And what can the average person here do to help?
I think really, you guys have already demonstrated an incredible warmth and welcome. I think continuing with that is fantastic. I think humor, humility, and curiosity serves a lot. I wouldn't necessarily be curious about their actual, the trauma that they've gone through, because that can be very re-triggering to talk about, but just they're going to be coming at a time in which I don't know how exposed they've been to Christianity, so will they find some of the Christmas customs foreign to them? Will they feel like, oh yeah, we have many Christian friends? So I honestly don't know. But that kind of curiosity between different cultures, like, oh, what do you do? What's your comfort food? And what do you do during this time of year?
Yeah, so just include them in the society.
Include them and be curious about them in a way of a sharing of cultures. It's a wonderful time to get to know another culture. That for them, this is going to be a lifetime experience. And that years may go by, and you might be thinking, shouldn't they have learned the language by now? Shouldn't they have been more employed by now? And every person is very different. It really depends on the amount of trauma they've experienced. And the thing about trauma is that it's invisible. So it's really about inside how a person feels, and that's really hard to know. So sometimes you can see somebody, you can think, why aren't they learning the language? So-and-so came at the same time and they're learning the language fine. How come they're not working as hard as so-and-so does? And it's really probably because the trauma they've suffered took a bigger toll than the other person. And that's an individual experience. You and I could go through the same trauma and we could experience it very differently. And one of us could emerge from that trauma much more competent than the other one. It has a lot to do with just the individual differences among us and the level of trauma each person experiences. Because they've experienced the trauma of war. First, they've experienced whatever stressors they felt pre-war, which may have been going on for years. Then there was a revolution with great hope that things would change, and things got very violent and very mean, and there may have been factions among themselves that they once trusted and now can't, and so their level of trust has been damaged. And then if they've gone to refugee camps, sometimes there's trauma within that camp itself. And the trauma can be anything from major disruption and loss to torture to death of loved ones. So it can be pretty severe.
And there's no way for the average Icelander to put...
No, you can't have this little wand and fix it, which would be really
Or
wonderful.
even to imagine
No.
the things that they've been
No, and the
through.
truth is you wouldn't want to.
No.
When people first started telling me their torture stories, I thought, no, this is made up. Nobody would do this to another human. And then story after story, I realized, oh, humans can do some pretty horrible things to other humans.
We can only we can know and accept that they have been through.
Yes, you can know and accept it. And acceptance is really a wonderful approach here. It's absolutely it. That you don't have to be threatened by differences. You get to accept